Okay, so I'm super excited about this one, but this is how you crochet an octopus. So this was requested, but because I don't want to take credit for other people's patterns, I came up with this one myself. It is a no-sew octopus, so you don't have to sew the tentacles. I am going to start by making 2 chains, and then I'm going to add 6 single crochet into the first chain. And like my other crochet tutorials, each row is going to get its own video and they will be worked in their entirety. I'll also go over stuffing and all the other things, but yeah, let me know if you have any questions. And if I make a mistake in my stitch counts or whatever, this is an untested pattern. I haven't shared it anywhere before, but here you go. See you in part 2. This is how to crochet an octopus part 2. I'm going to start by adding my first stitch directly into the first stitch of row 1. I'm not going to slip stitch, and then I'm going to add a stitch marker to mark the first stitch of row 2. Then I'm going to add a second stitch into the same stitch, and then I'm going to add 2 single crochet into every single stitch all the way around for a total of 12 stitches. So we had 6 after row 1, and now we have 12. If you're wondering about the stitch marker, you do not have to buy a stitch marker. You can use an alternating yarn color, you can use a safety pin or a paper clip or whatever else you have on hand. And we're working in a continuous spiral because a slip stitch into the first stitch would create a seam and the spiral eliminates the seam. But you would not be wrong for slip stitching into the first stitch if that is what you prefer. But if you like these kind of close-up stitch tutorials, be sure to like and follow. I post them every single day on my page. And I'll see you in part 3. This is how to crochet an octopus part 3. This time I'm going to add a single crochet into the first stitch. And then I'm going to move my stitch marker to mark the beginning of my row. And then I'm going to add a second single crochet into the same stitch. And then I'm going to put 1 single crochet into the next one. And I'm going to repeat 2 in one and then 1 in the next all the way around. So this one is stitches 4 and 5. 6 will be by itself. 7, 8 in one stitch, and then 9 by itself. If you're a pattern person, this is the 3rd row, so your repeats are going to be multiples of 3. So every single stitch that's by itself is going to be a multiple of 3. That's how I remember my stitch counts, because at the end of row 3, because it's the 3rd row and I was working in multiples of 3, I started with 6. 6 times 3 is 18. So I need to have 18 stitches for my final stitch count. But if you like these kind of close-up stitch tutorials, be sure to like and follow. I post them every single day on my page. And here's the written pattern. This is how to crochet an octopus part 4. We are on row 4, and this time I'm going to add a first stitch into the top of the first stitch of row 3, and then I'm going to move my stitch marker to mark the first stitch of row 4. Then I'm going to add a second stitch into the same stitch, and then 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So this will be stitches 5 and 6 in the same stitch. And then 7 will be on its own, and then 8 will be on her own, just so we can include everybody. No, I'm kidding. In row 3, we have multiples of 3. In row 4, we have multiples of 4. So since we started with 6 stitches for row 1, 6 times 4 is 24, so our final stitch count should be 24 stitches. And the repeat all the way around is going to be 2 in one stitch, and then 1 into the next 2 stitches. I did want to add that when I designed the pattern, I did not use a chunky yarn or a velvety yarn like this one. I used a regular medium weight yarn and a 3.5 millimeter hook. And for this, I'm using a 5 weight yarn and a 5.5 millimeter hook. But you can play around with different yarn sizes and hook sizes, and it's still going to be an octopus. It'll just be a different size. But if you like these kind of close-up stitch tutorials, be sure to like and follow. I post them every single day on my page. And if you have any questions about this stitch or another stitch, or would like to request something, you can leave that in the comments of any of my videos. And here's the written pattern. This is how to crochet an octopus part 5. We are on row 5. I'm going to add my first stitch, and then I'm going to move my stitch marker to mark that first stitch, and then I'm going to add a second single crochet into that same stitch, and then I'm going to add one single crochet into the next 3 stitches. We're going to repeat that all the way around. So an increase, meaning 2 single crochet in one, and then 1 into each of the next 3. That's going to give us a multiple of 5. So 1 and 2 are together, 3, 4, 5 are on their own. And since we started with 6 stitches in row 1, and we're working with multiples of 5, 6 times 5 is 30. So our final stitch count should be 30. I really hope I'm not getting too confusing with all this, but it's a lot. Crochet patterns are a lot of math, especially when you're working in the round, because in order to keep it flat and keep it from going wavy, there's like a certain pattern, and this really helps with that. So at least it helps me understand and kind of like grasp it logically. If that doesn't work for you, you can let me know in the comments. I can stop making little analogies like that, or like little connections, because I know my brain can be weird. I really do. But I also feel like I can talk more in these kind of tutorials because only a few people watch them, actually. I love making them, and I make them for you guys because you're like my people. And the ones that don't watch the videos, like, they're cool, but y'all are special. Don't tell them I said that, though. Everybody's special. I love everybody. But this is the end of the row. And then here's the written pattern, and I will see you in part 6. Be sure to like and follow for more close-up stitch tutorials. This is how to crochet an octopus part 6. So rows 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are just 1 stitch in every single stitch all the way around. I'm not going to talk through this whole video because I found it very satisfying, but you can watch how the circle transforms into a tube. I kept the original sound, so you can just listen to the yarn and the clicker and the stitch marker. But I'll see you in part 7. This is how to crochet an octopus part 7. We're going to start decreasing. So I took out my stitch marker and I'm going to pick up the front loop of the first stitch and then the front loop of the second stitch. And then I'm going to finish it the way I would a single crochet. So now that I've got both front loops, I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2. Then I'm going to put my stitch marker back into the first stitch. And then I'll put a single crochet into the next. And that is how we're going to do our repeats. So it's going to be a decrease, and then a single crochet into the next, and then another decrease and another single crochet all the way around. Now, if you followed my amigurumi ball tutorial, it is slightly different than it is here. So in order to make a perfect ball, you need to mirror your increase stitches when you're doing your decreases. Meaning that since our last row of increases was an increase, meaning 2 single crochet into 1, and then 1 single crochet into the next 3, our first row of decreases should be a decrease and then a single crochet into the next 3. But because this is a no-sew octopus, I decided to do it this way to compensate for the tentacles that we're going to make in the next row. But if you haven't followed my amigurumi ball tutorial, it's very useful for understanding the basic amigurumi techniques. And it can also give you a baseline into designing your own, because it is the most basic way to do anything in amigurumi. And it also gives you an idea on how to kind of play around with shapes. I've gotten a lot of great comments on that other video on things that you can do with the ball. One person suggested just adding some eyes to make it a frog. Or you can add some long rows of single crochet instead of decreasing right away to make a jellyfish. There's just a lot of ways to play around with it. But if you like these kind of close-up stitch tutorials, be sure to like and follow. I try to post them every single day. And if you have any questions about this stitch or another stitch, or would like to request a stitch, you can leave that in the comments of any of my videos. And I will see you in part 8. And here's the written pattern. I'll post the entire pattern at the very end of the series. This is how to crochet an octopus part 8, but for this we're actually not going to crochet, we're just stuffing the octopus. And I'm also going to add that I totally forgot to add the safety eyes first. So if you want to add your eyes before you add the stuffing, that would be smart. But regardless, I always debate on whether or not I should even include these in as a video, but I very distinctly remember how I overcomplicated things back when I was first starting to stuff things, because I never knew if like you could stuff it too much or not enough. And in my experience, when you start decreasing after the first decrease row, you want to stuff it about halfway, and then you can add more after every single row until it's as fluffy as you want it. But I'll see you in part 9. This is how to crochet an octopus part 9, and we're starting the tentacles. So I took out my stitch marker, and now I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch, and then I'm going to chain 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I'm going to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the next chain. And then I'm going to single crochet into the next 2 chains. So there's 1 and 2. And then I'm going to half double crochet into the next 2 chains. That's 1 and 2. And then I'm going to double crochet into the next 3 chains. One, 2 and 3. Then to attach the tentacle, I'm going to skip one stitch on the bottom here. So skip that one and then slip stitch into the next. And that's how you make a tentacle. Then for the next one, you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch and add 10 chains again. But I do feel like I have to say that while my kids were playing with the octopus, I noticed that he only has 7 tentacles and not 8. If you feel like you don't have enough space or for an 8th tentacle, you can skip one of those slip stitches. So you can have only one slip stitch in between. I'll have to fix that in the future, but there you go. I'll see you in part 10. This is how to crochet an octopus part 10. I did take the stuffing out to put in the eyeballs. Normally you would do that before adding the stuffing, but I forgot. In this one, they're placed 6 stitches apart, but what I love about eyeball placement is that you can add a different personality depending on where you put the eyeballs. If you hear background noise, it's because I normally wait until nighttime to do these voiceovers, but my internet has been not very friendly to me, and it used to work at night, and now it's not working at night anymore. So let's try doing these in the morning and see if it makes a difference. You may be more likely to hear children in the background because I can only, sneak away for so long before they realize I'm not in the room. But here you go. I will see you in part 11. Be sure to like and follow if you like these kind of close-up stitch tutorials. And here's what they look like. This is how to crochet an octopus part 11. So we're going to add a decrease, and it's going to be in that stitch we slip stitched into, and then the stitch that's in between. And I'm not doing an invisible decrease this time. I'm just doing a regular decrease because it gets way too complicated trying to do the regular or the invisible one. Then it's just a single crochet, and essentially all the way around it's going to be a decrease and a single crochet. It is the bottom of the octopus. If you can't align it this exact way, absolutely no soul is going to be able to tell. So just so you know. But the pattern is a decrease and a single crochet, and as long as you do that around, this isn't a perfect pattern. I realized watching this little clip, I feel like I probably could have done better, but I'm trying to move on to from the octopus, because whenever I get to part 11s, I get a little, like I start questioning, do people really want 11 parts for a project? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. I like making them, so, I'm not complaining, but I don't know. My social anxiety kicks in at that point, because then it's like, am I rambling on about this project for too long, or should I just keep going? Because at this point I'm committed. I have to finish. But, yeah. If you've stuck around this long, congratulations. But, yeah. So you're just going to do that all the way around. And I have a bonus for you. So we went to the aquarium yesterday and I saw a real octopus. So instead of showing the finished octopus at the end, I'm going to show you a real one. There it is. Isn't he cute? You also made me realize that my octopus does not look like that. This is how to crochet an octopus part 12. And it's just the stuffing. I sped it up to 2x speed so it wouldn't take forever. But I'll see you in part 13. This is how to crochet an octopus part 14. We're at the end, and now we're just going to sew up the hole in the middle. I'm using a blunt bent tapestry needle to pick up the front loop of every single stitch going around, and I'm going from the inside of the hole out every single time. And then when I pull on it, it is going to close it up in this perfect little circle. It is my favorite part of working with amigurumi. And there. Isn't it pretty? Can't even tell. Seriously, if you don't crochet, you can't tell where the hole is. It just looks like magic. I do have an Amazon favorites list. It has all the tools that I use, that I love, and that I would recommend, because I've had people ask me where I get like my needles and my hooks from and stuff like that. But in part 15, I'll post the pattern. So there we go. It's you and me. And if only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places. This is How to Crochet an Octopus part 13. This is going to be our last row of crochet, so we're going to add a decrease stitch into every single stitch around. And I'm not doing the invisible decrease, I'm just going to pull up a loop in the first stitch. Here we go. Pull up a loop in the second, and then yarn over and pull through 3. I did put this at 2x speed because up until this point you've already done decrease stitches, and I wanted to keep this video short and sweet. Once you finish all your decreases, you're just going to cut the yarn, and then we're going to weave in or sew the hole shut. But I'll show you that in the next video because I find it to be one of the most satisfying things. But I will see you in part 14, and it'll be the last part. Oh, and if you enjoy these kind of close-up stitch tutorials, be sure to like and follow. I post them almost every single day. I do like to take off a day in between there, but there we go.